What's up, everybody? Thanks so much for having me on. Yeah, we were in Orem. Now we're just autopilot. We're out of Pleasant Grove, so that's been a little bit of a change. So, yeah, in Greco, and so that's kind of Greco's always my passion. But yeah, wrestled quite a bit. You know, yeah, I don't think so. That was pretty awesome. I enjoyed wrestling. I served an LDS mission, and that kind of plugged in there as well. And then a lot of those things had a lot to do with what I'm doing today. So yeah, for sure. I wish I could say I went to college for school and wrestling helped that, but I really went to college to wrestle and I had to go to school because of it. But with that being said, wrestling in college was a full-time job. It was morning all day and night, getting the workouts in, and then also having to take 12 to 15 credits at a time. And so I didn't really have a time for a job, and so flipping cars kind of became a thing. I started out with some motor scooters in Utah County with BYU and UVU. I would change batteries and brake cables and started flipping those, and it turned into motorcycles, and then it started turning into cars. And yeah, throughout my time at UVU, I counted a little over 500 cars I had flipped over my time there at Utah Valley. Oh man, wide variety. I wish I could say I was efficient, and but anything. I didn't really have a lot of goals or mindset of like what I was going to make per car or making it a business. It was really just to make ends meet and hopefully able to go on a date by Friday. And so whatever I could really get out of it, if it was 200 bucks, if it was 1200, I started doing some crazy trades where I was trading up for different vehicles, and that's where some bigger money came. But that was a fun time of my life for sure. Yeah, well, life set in, right? I battled some injuries at UVU, found my amazing wife, Caitlin, and Utah had actually started some laws where you could only sell two cars legally a year that were in your name. And so Larry Miller and Ken Garf and those bigger dealerships were actually helping funding some of these laws to come forth. And so my wife just said, "Hey, you can either be done flipping cars or start a dealership." And at the time, we had about $2,000 to our name, and we decided to start a dealership. And so we found a little lot and put all of our money into getting licensing and bonded and insured. And so now we had a dealership and we had no money. So I went to every dealer in Utah County, Salt Lake County, just knocking on their doors and saying, "Hey, I just started this small car dealership. I'd be willing to sell any of your cars that you've sat on longer than 30 days that have passed safety and emissions, and if you'd pay me 500 bucks per car to do that." And I found a guy in Salt Lake. He had a line of Hyundai Sonatas. Actually, a friend wanted to go buy one and brought me with him. And I told him kind of the same pitch I'd been telling a bunch of other dealers, and he looked me square in the eye, and his name was Muhammad, and he said, "Take them all." And I was like, "What?" And he's like, "Yeah, take all of them." And so it was the craziest thing. So overnight, I had 25 Sonatas to sell, with more coming. He was buying them out of California. And it was really cool. And this has actually been a huge thing throughout all of my businesses. I got to know Muhammad and his family really well. I've enjoyed Ramadan dinner, my family and his family, multiple times. And anyway, I was able to help him get a dealer's license in the state of Utah and actually become legal to sell these cars and to buy these cars. And with that relationship came a lot of opportunity. So I started selling his cars, making $500 each one, until I got enough to buy my own car. And that just kind of continued to build up into the car dealership that I have today, which actually ended up funding a lot of other ventures. Yeah. Um, just kind of got a knack for innovation and just trying to solve problems. But I would say probably my biggest mentor at the time was Jesus, and just praying a lot every single day. I felt like I understood the market pretty well, just because I had developed a software that actually scoured KSL and would send me ads before they were actually posted. Now KSL has actually something built in where you can get alerts, but I was getting, so I felt like I knew the market well enough, and also I hated car dealers. I still hate car dealers, and I own one. But I had so many friends and family that had been taken. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So I'll give you an example. One of my capstone projects at UVU, my senior year in my business course, was I bought a car. I did a ton of work to it, and I made it sellable. Like it was in mint condition. I detailed it, everything, and I went to a local dealer, big box dealer, and I sold it to them. Right? They said it was great. Everything's good. They gave me an okay value for what I was in it. Anyway, I did all this to go back and rebuy my same car. They didn't know this. And so 10 days later, I went back to buy this same car, and they had told me all the things that they had done to it, which is stuff I did to it. So they told me about all the repairs, everything that they had to go through and do to it, and they were in it this much. And so they were more than doubling what I sold it to them for, saying that they did all the work for it. Anyway, and I just threw down all the receipts and stuff. I was like, I sold this car to you guys a week ago, and that was my car. I did all that work, and the salesman all freaked out. And I've been in a lot of other situations that are even worse with the financing side. And anyway, so I just felt like there was a need for at least a place where family and friends could come, and get a good, reliable car, have their own financing options. We work through local credit unions and not have to play that game. I mean, there are still some great dealers out there that offer financing that help those people that need it, but at the same time, I definitely felt like there was at least a place family and friends could come to buy a good car at a good price. Right. Yeah, definitely. And if you are looking for a used car, I'd hold off. To be honest, I think in the next 3 to 6 months we're going to see a pretty big decline, and so and that's a whole nother story. But I would wait if you can. Yeah. So I have one car dealership. We moved it from Orem to Pleasant Grove. We actually ended up attaching a U-Haul dealership to it just a couple years ago. I just recently opened up my second U-Haul location, and with attached to the e-bikes. But yeah, so we open up the car dealership and start kind of building that. And this is about 8 or 9 years ago. So yeah, so while I was doing the car dealership, um, I started a couple. I saw the necessity in the same mindset of what some dealers were doing. I had taken a couple little jobs at marketing companies and stuff like that. I had an emphasis in marketing at UVU, and I love eliciting an emotion or helping people. I like connecting them with the right thing, right, and making sure that connections in general. And so I felt like social media was on the rise. I started a small social media marketing company that was, kind of like a Hootsuite. I called it Social Rain, and built that up to a couple clients. My biggest one was Reese Property Management here. That landed me a job at a marketing company while I was still running the dealership, and just kind of started doing SEO implementation and stuff like that on the side for some companies across the country, learning all I could about Facebook ads, social media ads, and that actually led me into building drop shipping sites from overseas. So that kind of all plummeted there, and then I started building drop shipping sites for myself. I built a company called Splooch. It's kind of a really interesting name, but I started a company called Splooch Watches. Found a couple of distributors overseas, and a couple people. If you ever downloaded an app called Pocket Points, it was if you kept your phone off during class, you got discounts, and so I was one of the top retailers on Pocket Points, and so I plugged Splooch into that. I was selling watches at 50% off, and it was crazy. Yeah, we were doing about $30,000 in sales a month off of Splooch, just selling watches from overseas to college students across the country. Yeah. You know, there was a time where it was a lot more, but I was doing a lot of things half baked, you could say, um, and you could see it. If I added more, the dealership struggled. If I added more, and so I still feel like the plate is pretty full. So you got the car dealership with the U-Haul. You've got Rydon with the U-Haul, and then you've got a pretty big umbrella of tech and online streams, and then a little bit on the real estate side. So those are kind of the main focuses right now. I would say he's 100% right. um, I don't know if it's just my mindset. I don't want to use the word that I get bored because I really don't get bored. I just enjoy the innovation and the creation. Um, and part of me kind of says, why not? Why can't I do it? But at the same time, I do think if I would have focused on one, I've seen opportunities of where it could or would be. But at the same time, I wouldn't have this if I focused on one. I wouldn't have some of the other connections that I have too. And so I enjoy what I do. A lot of people really love Friday because they can have a Saturday, Sunday, and I love Monday mornings. I mean, if you can find something where you love Mondays, like my Mondays and Saturdays are the exact same. Because I have, I now take Wednesdays off completely and spend time with my family and spend time with my kids. I take the middle of the week and just take a break. And so the way that that's possible, having multiple things, is you can either say you want to find people that you trust or you need to build trust in people. I have a guy, my GM, his name's Nick, and he runs, I want to say he runs the dealership, but he runs everything. He does it all, right? And he's a guy I trust. He's got my checkbook in his backpack, and I trust him to do so many things. And so build a team around you that you trust. Now, are there mistakes and things that happen? Of course, that's business. We just had something that happened yesterday that's pretty big that we were able to talk about, and but making that possible so that those multiple streams, you can provide jobs for people, you can provide a lifestyle, but at the same time, freedom is awesome. Yeah, well, it was interesting. I think one of the biggest things that's restricted me from maybe making some bigger choices or growing was fear, right? Which every single time I let fear creep in and then I break through it, I wish I would have just done it earlier, right? And so, for instance, we were super scared to buy our first home, which if I say the numbers, it's going to people are gonna be like, oh my gosh, right? It was a 3,300 square foot home with a basement apartment in Eagle Mountain on point 0.3 of an acre for 275K, right? And this is our first home, and we're just like, we can't afford that. There's no way. And so one thing that Caitlin and I we took a trip to Europe and we spent some time in Paris and we saw how they lived. And they share spaces, they in my opinion, we loved the efficiency and we loved how a lot of the European culture lived. And so we liked the idea of a basement apartment, of what it did for us. And so we built a separate entrance and made that rentable. And so we were renting our basement, and every property except our townhome has had a basement apartment. I mean, our mortgage was around 1,500 bucks, and I think we were renting the basement at the time for 1,300. And so that was nice, right? I think Jordan, I think you currently rent your basement as well. But we sold it. We saw an opportunity, which I can say all that I want. I wish I would have done more research on HELOCs at the time and used that property. But you've got to be smart on debt to income ratio. You got to be realistic of what the banks are gonna loan you. And so we sold that property 2 years later, and we waited the 2 years so we didn't have to pay capital gains and put that towards another property. Yep. Yeah. Well, I think there's a certain paradigm or way of thinking when it comes to debt and real estate. Other than if you study the Grant Cardones, if you study the real estate moguls of today, right? HELOC is just that's a no brainer in certain cases, right? But to me, growing up, and to other people, like I remember my friends' parents doing a HELOC to remodel their kitchen, and that's all a HELOC was used for, was a remodel. It was stressful, it was expensive, was it worth it? And so like I don't think I ever really, I mean, the word HELOC was a negative word to me for a long time, which is weird. It just kind of was mentally. I just, oh, you don't go in debt more. You're already in debt, And when that would have made us a lot more money, we'd have been able to put our deposit down on our money down on our townhome, still had the extra capital to be able to build the home we built in Pleasant Grove, and now we would have, you know, multiple more doors with the same amount of with actually probably less debt now and multiple more income. And so I think understanding, and there's a lot of great tools that teach people what a HELOC and those things can do. And right now HELOCs are actually pretty awesome because the equity in homes, I mean, you could take quite a bit of equity in your home and put it into other properties in surrounding states and really open your portfolio with not a huge uh, downside. Yeah. 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 Right. Yeah, something that I mean, and don't be afraid of it. Just learn, and if it feels right, pull the trigger because it'll be worth it. Yeah. Uh, you get especially in Utah County, you get the cliche, um, hard work driven, motivated, right? And you get the Salisbury. I forgot my flat brim hat and my Vasa shirt. But honestly, it really time is okay. I really think we live in a world where, I think the get rich quick schemes are kind of over, but at the same time, people want things so fast, right? I think real estate kind of settles that void because it's something big value. I always looked at real estate the same as I did cars, except with another zero. And not a lot of people look at cars the same way I do. Every single person, even a lot of really high end businessmen, which I respect, think cars is a depreciating asset, and it is to me an investment. I've never looked at cars that way. I've been able to look at the market and the system and make a lot of money in the auto industry, and that's with a dealer's license and without one. So hiring people um, really started with Nick, right? Nick had a good foundation um, of the auto industry, um, and seriously, the two things that was great is he caught the vision early. We had the same vision, and we trusted each other. And so since then, we've had people come on, and it's been great because I have a lot of flexibility in what we've done, and so I always have different avenues. If people need help for 6 months, a year, I'll give you an example. Um, I was with a youth group on a camp out, and one of the other leaders was a really good friend of mine, and he was working for a company selling packaging. Um, and anyway, he liked it, but he's like, dude, I want to be a seminary teacher, which is a teacher that teaches the gospel here at local high schools. And I was like, then what are you doing selling packaging? Like that didn't add up to me in my mind. And he's like, well, how do I do that? So anyway, within a week, he sold it. He had a lot of equity in his cars, and he needed some cash, so he sold his cars. He got into some other vehicles that were a little bit cheaper. And he got his sales license with me, came and started, you know, selling cars, but also doing a couple other of my side gigs that I was doing, just whatever it took to get by as he started the seminary teaching process. And now he's a seminary teacher at Riverton High School. And so it's awesome. And so I've been able to bring on quite a few people that just needed a buffer to finally do what they wanted to do, and that's been really cool. But I would just say trust and that you have a vision and they clearly see it. Yeah, yeah. Great question. So I think if you guys go every day thinking everybody is worth knowing, I've thought this since I was 4 years old. Every single person is worth getting to know, whether they can help you or you can help them. And so Nick and I were actually working on a project with another company. This was back in 2013 or 14. We were brokering cars. This is when I was kind of flipping. A buddy of mine's dad started a car dealership, and he wanted to broker cars nationwide. So Jordan, you actually came down and saw that place and what we were kind of doing before you left on your mission. Actually, it was like the day before you left, you came down and said hi. But yep, yep. So we actually did a seven car transaction and a brokerage with Glenn Beck, and I learned a lot about who Nick was, and he was kind of the logistics manager at the time there, and I was helping do kind of the brokering. So I disagreed with some of the things that were going on there, and that's also another reason why I started the dealership right then. And anyway, as time went on, he went on and became a commercial manager at AutoZone. He actually worked for Vanderhall and was one of their lead logistics guys for Vanderhall. They are a auto manufacturer here in Utah. So he went through all this stuff, and I finally called him and I just said, "Hey Nick, what are you doing? You want to come over?" I was like, "I can't pay you anything, but I promise it'll be worth it." And he came over and caught the vision and saw 25 Sonatas and one meeting with Muhammad, and we were on our way. So no, we're good. You guys are great. We're good. Yeah. So this is where probably doing too much was a defeat. Thinking I needed to hang on to something that wasn't bringing me happiness, wasn't a revenue stream, and was causing more stress than good. Even though, if I would have put more time into that, great, it could have grown, right? I think in business, especially if you're willing to keep moving, if you plant it, it'll grow. Um, and so I had to figure out what I wanted to plant. So saying no was one of the biggest things to some stuff, and then also that fear. I'll give you an example. Um, 3 years ago, I got passed by a hunting bike on my extended unit, e-bike, and he blew by me. I was huffing and puffing, and there's some people who get blown by on e-bikes that are mad, and I was ecstatic. I was just like, that was the coolest thing I've ever seen. The dude looked like a freaking beast. Just he had his bow on his back. He was just cruising. I don't know. He had camo on, right? It was just like this epic. I was like, that was awesome. So I went to go buy one. I went to go buy a hunting bike and looked up a company up in Ogden and looked at their bikes and looked at a couple other local bikes, and I was out the door like 7,200 bucks. It was crazy. And so instead of me saying that was crazy, I told my wife, I was like, I think I'm going to buy one of these bikes. And that's when my wife told me, which she tells me a lot. She's like, "You're nuts." And she's like, "You could buy a brand new four wheeler. You could buy, think of what you could do at the dealership. You could buy another car." And I was like, "Yeah, but she's like, "You're buying a bike, dude." And so I sat there for a little while, and I was like, "You're right." And I was like, "There's got to be a better way." So I started emailing, and I finally got in touch with, after about 3 or 4 months of constant emails to, I mean, I'm emailing random factories overseas. Like, I don't know if they're getting them. I don't know if they're coming in what language, if they're being, anyway, I have no idea. Well, finally, I had this little tracker on my email that got read. And I was like, oh my heck, this is awesome. And not only that, he replied, and he was the owner of a factory that was building one of the biggest hunting bike brands in the country. And not only that, it was during COVID, and somehow he was flying to Vegas and wanted to meet with me. And so um, it took me a long time to pull the trigger on actually getting a bike in my hands. There was negative thoughts, there was COVID, there was shipping, there was container costs, there was, like, every doubt went through my mind saying this isn't going to work, this is not going to happen. um, the other brands were building, they were growing, like, outdoorsy stuff grew during COVID, right? And I was behind it all. I thought it was too late. And all of a sudden, this owner of the factory was like, "No, we need to meet." So I actually skipped the first meeting with him, and didn't go down to Vegas, and we did a video call. And one of his first video calls was he introduced me to the CEO of Bafang. Bafang is one of the biggest motors um, in the industry, and it's in all the major brands. And anyway, just right then, I was like, "Holy cow, this guy really, really, likes me." So I got my first bike, loved it, got more bikes, got some everyday bikes, some full suspension mountain bikes, some girl bikes, and it just kind of scaled from there. But to tell you that, if I would have started when he wanted to, I I would be way farther than where I am now. So don't let doubt or fear, just, I mean, Nike said it best, right? Just do it, because you're only here once. There's only one May 25th, 2023. What are you going to do? Yeah. Well, he knew he was going to make, I mean, he wanted to make money too, I think. Yeah, you're right. Correct. Yeah, good question. So, Rydon All was born literally when I was on that mountain, right? And I saw that bike and what it could do, and then also I saw the cost of competitors. And so this owner of this factory, meeting with him multiple times, and this is where Rydon grew because of two experiences that I've had. One was, making Muhammad a friend and helping him, taking time out of my day to help him, help me grow my dealership, right? Making this owner my friend and helping him, because eventually he saw that the everyday bikes were selling in the United States because of me. And that helped get a warehouse in Vegas. That helped port. That helped. But then he wanted to start his own brand. I was like, I'm creating my own competitor. but I still helped him. And by helping that, plugged me into so many opportunities of designing my own bike. And so, yeah, right. Yeah, I would tell you this: factories overseas don't really care about parameters. They don't really they don't care about too many things. However, this guy, he's awesome. He is black and white, and he wants to make a great product and build revenue. And so I always wanted to make a hunting bike, my own custom hunting bike, and by helping him build out a brand for the everyday bike, for the everyday bike user, he doesn't hunt, he doesn't care about that. So you've got to look through the blurry lines of a competitor and actually helping those two individuals, both of them. I helped one become a car dealer, which would technically make him a competitor. Made me more money in the auto industry than anything else. Helping him build an e-bike brand in the United States has unlocked the key to me having full access to a state-of-the-art factory and building the bike that I wanted to at a cost that makes it possible to fulfill what I wanted to do. So I know that it seems a little crazy, but if you have opportunities to help people in your space grow and build, those things have helped me tremendously grow my own businesses. It doesn't, it makes one and one equals three doesn't really add up, but in this case, that's where it does, right? Um, yeah, no, you're good. So we finally met up. We went to dinner in Vegas, and he thanked me for helping him, and he said it's time to build your own bike. And so we just started designing, got with engineers. I started sending mock-ups of what I wanted, and basically I wanted to build a top tier bike at a fraction of the cost. And so that's what we did. I mean, I think actually there's one just right here, but basically it's yeah, right. So competitors, we have the same motor. It's a Bafang Ultra motor. We have the biggest battery in the industry. We have Shimano components, aluminum alloy frame, um, hydraulic disc brakes, and we literally are half the cost of the competitor. And it's been something that I remember still sitting there on the mountain. I'm sure sometimes Caitlin probably wishes I would have just bought a $7,000 bike because we're a little more invested now than 7 grand. But um, it's it's been really cool to start from begging every single dealer in the state of Utah to help me sell their cars, to build capital, to never going in debt in any one of my businesses, to be able to fund a project where I've actually built my own product. And so that's been another goal of mine, is to manufacture and create my own product. And it's in a space that I love. I love hunting, and then it also helps people to be able to have an option of getting something that's high quality but a lot less. It's not. That is a great question. So of all the things, the dealership is running well. U-Haul's great. U-Haul's also attached to this Rydon location. Those things are kind of steady. Those are staying consistent. Rydon has a lot of different opportunities. I've got different companies reaching out, wanting to kind of collaborate and grow. And so we'll see if we end up going down a dealer path where we have Rydons across the country in different locations, and helping dealers grow and offer this great product. I mean, there's a lot of options in that world, and then also in the tech space, there's been some things now with AI coming into to the world that opens up opportunities to grow that and streamline that to help. Right now, I'm in talks of helping dealers nationwide with a website company to be able to be seen a little bit more online. So it's been fun. I think there's a lot of being able to say yes to things within your own sphere now, as you've kind of found a vision, is a lot easier than bringing in something totally different and trying to bring it in. So staying within that sphere, but then working towards it and letting things kind of fall into place, um, has been good. But still, learning to say no and yes at the right time is crucial. Yeah. Um, Dude, my wife is a freaking rock star. She is awesome. Um, I can't thank her enough for believing in me because, um, I mean, we both come from pretty conservative families, and so, my off the cuff, showing up with a random toy, random thing at home. Our first year of marriage, she's like, "What is that?" I was like, "I bought it. We're gonna flip it." And she's like, "What are you doing?" It just, and so she's read books. She's done so much to help her understand my mindset, and but at the same time, she graduated as one of the top dental hygienists in the state of Utah, and is still doing that. 1 to 2 times a month. She's actually working today, so she had her own goals and her own visions. She also is the best mother to our 3 children, and so that's an everyday thing. I trust me. I've spent days, and I love spending time with my kids. But to be a stay-at-home mom, dude, they are amazing human beings to do what they do. And so, but I think there's balance. I'm starting to understand, like, every single time. I don't know of anybody else who is very successful, who has kids graduating high school, or kids in high school about to graduate or in college. They don't sit down and tell me how much they have everything financially, but maybe it's the relationship or the memories that they did not make because they were gone. I just recently went to my daughter's dance recital, and it was her first one, and I'm still on cloud nine about it. But like I I literally felt, and I posted that, but I felt like the richest man in the world. And so, you can make millions of dollars and miss that recital, and I take the recital 10 out of 10. So I think there is a balance. You still have to provide, but making sure that the priority when you're not, in the space, is your family and your kids. Mhm. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, they're your team. It is a foundation, and if you're not putting in the same effort when you're at the office or out door to door or whatever, if you're not putting in the same effort at home, then that foundation isn't going to be there. So that effort has got to stem from the home, and it'll flourish into the businesses. Yeah, I see what you did there. Um, so catching the vision, and keeping the vision every single day has been important. And how I do that is, you know, um, I really, as interesting as it's been the last 2 years, I've really focused on building a relationship with Jesus Christ. And that sounds crazy, but that has helped my business grow more than anything else, which is, um, it doesn't always make sense, but at the same time, it's put things into my path that help keep things clear and keep things, the important things, right in front of me. But the other thing is, I don't know why, but I feel like every year or two, I go through some weird lulls of I don't just like negativity, thoughts in your mind, things start to build up. Just keep moving. If you can just keep moving every single day, um, don't let a day go by where you didn't just make something happen to be 1% better. And so that's on your personal self, your spiritual self, your marriage, your relationships with family, friends, and your business. Try to be 1% better every single day. And then I write down what I need to do and my goals a lot. And they change. They grow a lot. And so just always have a purpose. If you have a purpose, there's always a reason to keep moving. Like that. Thank you. Yeah, for sure. So if you go to Ride on Bikes on Instagram, you can see us there. Also, if you go to either rideonbikes.com or thehuntingbike.com, you can go check us out and see any bikes. And then a little thing that I'll throw in there: any of the followers of Asset Mindset, we'll throw in Asset Mindset 100 for $100 off any bike. So if you use that promo code Asset Mindset 100, you'll get $100 off any bike. And so hopefully you guys can go check them out, and we'd love to hook you guys up and ride on. Yep, no worries, guys. Thanks so much for having me on. See you later.